Welcome to Heavy Metal Monday.
Hey, it's Mike Capuglione coming to you live from Varsity House Gym. Welcome back to another edition of Heavy Metal Monday. Today, I'm going to take a break from some of the training exercises and the lifting, and I want to talk to you a little bit about my recovery since my surgery about 6 months ago. And then also here you can see on the board I broke down an entire Strongman training template inside the gym that I do, and we'll talk a little bit about event training. And this is basically, we'll get more into it once we get started, but this is basically a template that once I started doing Strongman, it was given to me, and I've basically been running through this template for the last 9 years. So we're gonna talk about that template. But before we do that, if you've been watching the show and you've been inside the gym, you realize and know that about 6 months ago while competing for my pro card, I wound up in the first event tearing my bicep and required surgery after that. And it was, it was a tough thing to, being 9 years into the sport, and I've had some ups and downs with some injuries and stuff like that, but nothing as that severe. So, but it is the most prominent injury in Strongman. I won't be the first guy, I won't be the last guy. So I had to take care of it, had to deal with it. It was about 6 months ago. In the last 2.5 months, I've basically been a full go in training. I have tried to build myself up back slowly, and basically, knock on wood, strength from before the injury till now feels relatively pretty good. Feels relatively pretty much the same. There are times where I still have some tightness, and I've been going to physical therapy and rehab still 3 days a week, and that definitely has helped. And trying to get a lot of blood flow in the area, and just trying to stay as smart as I can with my training, but at the same time try to push myself in some areas that I need to make sure that I get back to being the best that I can be. And my whole goal was that once this happened and I was going to do what I had to do for recovery, that when I do my first competition after this, was that I'm planning on winning. I'm not planning on just going to compete. So training and making sure what you're doing is really very, very important. So last 2.5 months been a full go. We're getting ready, and I'm going to be competing at Pennsylvania's Strongest Man in July. So right now my training is geared for that competition. So I'm right now in the midst of getting ready for that and doing whatever I can to get myself the best that I can be. So with that being said, I appreciate all the support inside the gym from my family and from my friends, always asking me how I'm feeling, how I'm doing, and always supporting me, especially the guys here inside the gym, always helping me out and always encouraging me and staying on top of me. So I really appreciate that, guys, very much. And we'll get ready to go for Pennsylvania's Strongest Man. Okay, guys, so leading into that, all right, let's start talking about a Strongman training template, okay, that we're going to talk about here today. And basically, it's based off of 5 days. When I first started doing Strongman, I had to definitely change my training. Now, I was lifting a lot, training a lot, but it was all just for, I guess you'd say, vanity, and just for trying to, because I love lifting and training. And I'd be working up and always squatting and benching and doing stuff like that. But once I started doing Strongman, I really had to have a plan. Okay, so this plan was given to me by Scott Brangle. He's my buddy Tommy, his cousin out in California. He was a lightweight pro. He has his own gym, ECWC, one on the West Coast. It's called East Coast, West Coast Strength and Conditioning. He has one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast now that my buddy Frankie, who I've been training with for the last several years, has now opened up and has partnered up with Cameron, another friend of Scott, who was another lightweight pro, and they're running East Coast, West Coast. So Scott, gave me basically this template, and over the years I've tweaked a few things here and there, but for the most part I stuck with the plan. So let's start off with day one. Okay, day one can be really a Monday or a Tuesday. All right. Now my training, I've been doing it on a Tuesday, but most of the time it was a Monday for a lot of years. I'd come in and do this. Now, number one, okay, it was an overhead press variation. Now, depending on what I did on the Saturday event training would determine what I did overhead press wise for that day. And I go through a bunch of variations we talked about here on the show, strict press, push jerk, all kinds of different implements, the axle, the log, the straight bar. You can use bands. So you can have, a lot of fun with it, incorporate a lot of different things, but just make sure, okay, overhead press variation, that you're getting some sort of overhead work on that day one. Okay, the second part of day one is a squat variation. So once again, whatever you decide to do, this is open to you. Whatever it could be. It could be a free squat, it could be a box squat, it could be a front squat, it could be a cambered bar, it could be whatever your program is going to call for. Whatever you decide doing, that's what you do. Okay. After the squat variation, I used to like to superset 3 and 4. I would do a row variation, single arm row, barbell row, incline row, seated machine row, whatever you decide to do, and some shoulder volume work with that. We've talked about a lot of shoulder volume work. My last episode with Big Andrew Trombetti, we talked about some shoulder volume work, what I do with the band. So this could be front raises, band pull apart, side raises, you be creative. And I used to superset these a lot. After that, we do some weighted ab work. The weighted ab work that I usually would like to do is a front loaded ab. So it could be a sandbag or a dumbbell. Behind the neck, so I can take a plate behind the neck, a weighted leg lift, where I put a dumbbell in between my feet. So a couple of those are like the 3 main weighted ab exercises I like to rotate through. And the last is conditioning. Okay, what most important for strongman guys, different from any other strength sports like powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting, is that the conditioning is a vital part, okay, of strongman. So you can't just forget about conditioning. So you can't be lazy. You finish all your work, you get a little tired, and you say, all right, whatever, I can't. You gotta get it in. And the conditioning I usually do on day one is prowler work, sled work. Most of it's weighted. So whatever you can decide, that whatever you have access to, some sort of weighted conditioning. So some prowler variations, some sled variations, and that pretty much entails all of day one. Okay, day two. Okay, day two used to be most of the time on a Wednesday. For me now, I switched up to a Thursday, but Wednesday or Thursday. And day two includes a power movement of some sort. So some sort of Olympic movement, a clean, a snatch, whatever you feel comfortable with doing. If you don't feel too comfortable with those movements and those exercises, med ball throws, jump variation, so anything to get the nervous system fired up. After that, we move on to some posterior chain work. That could be, once again, a number of things. It could be your max effort, deadlift work. It could be good morning work. If you do 3 weeks of a deadlift variation, and okay, now I'm going to move on and I'm going to do 3 weeks of a good morning. I'm going to do 3 weeks of an RDL, whatever the case may be, but it has to be some sort of posterior chain work. And sometimes I superset it with some single leg work. So for example, if I know I'm going to deadlift, I probably won't do single leg work. I'll just work on my deadlift that day and then go to like my reverse hypers and glute hams that I'll get to in a second. But if I'm not going to plan on deadlifting, I may superset this. So I may do a posterior chain exercise like a good morning. Recently, I just did like a set of good mornings for like say a set of 5, and then I go into a single leg work exercise like a dumbbell step up. So, I switch it up. If I'm not deadlifting, I do some sort of superset with a posterior chain movement, a single leg work. If I'm just deadlifting, I may just deadlift and focus on that. Okay, and then the fourth, some accessory posterior chain work is pretty much, the reverse hypers is pretty much getting done almost on every one of those days. Either a pause variation that I showed 2 weeks ago, the decompression variation, whatever you want to do, change up your set and rep scheme, volume work, kind of max effort work. Maybe we're doing set to 8, set to 6, where you're working up in weight, and glute ham raises, okay? If some of the bigger guys aren't great at glute ham raises, you could do like ham rolls or ham sliders, glute hams off the ground with a partner holding your feet. These are some less intensity movements that you can do for your glute hams. But this stuff pretty much gets done all the time. This is accessory, important weak point movements that you should be getting done almost on every day 2. So after day 2, we're gonna move on to day 3. Okay, day 3 is a bench variation of some sort. Once again, be creative. Whatever you want to work on, whatever you feel you need to get better at, work on that. I may include some dumbbell variations as well. After that, I may do a bench press. I may go to an incline dumbbell bench press. I may come in one day and say I benched for 6 weeks, a bench variation for 6 weeks. I may not bench press for 3 weeks. I may come in and just do a dumbbell bench variation. So once again, any type of bench variation. Okay. After that is a bodyweight push and bodyweight pull. A lot of times I'll superset these two. Bodyweight push, any type of push-up variation, anything you want to think of, weight it for time, be creative. Pull variations, pull-ups, Also make sure to throw in a lot of dips as well on your push variations. But the pulls, we're doing pull-ups, we're doing inverted pull-ups, different grips. I do a thing called around the world where I may do an overhand pull-up, a neutral grip pull-up, and a chin-up. And I do stuff like that. So be creative with that. Next is an arm. I call it an arm blood flow. So I could be doing 200 band push downs. I could be doing 100 band curls. It's just to get blood flow to the area. Remember, in strongman, everything that you do involves some sort of grip, squeezing, holding, flexing. Everything that you do, okay, is always incorporating some sort of hand work, some sort of flexion work with the biceps, everything that you do. So to get some blood flow in there to kind of heal up those little muscles inside the forearms and the hands are pretty important to do. And then on that day, I do some abdominal bracing work, okay? That could be anything from band anti-rotation. I mean, I set a band up, I come out, I fight the band pulling me back. It could be taking like an overhead press, maybe at like a 185 or 225 and holding it up there for a couple rounds of 30 seconds. Some type of bracing work where you're statically holding and flexing for a given amount of time. Be creative with that. And the conditioning on this day is what I like to call like a protocol conditioning. So this is a day where I may do some of my like cardio work, like on low impact type cardio machines like the Airdyne, the bike, or the rower, or the skier. This is great stuff to do for a lot of strongmen, being that you are constantly being impacted, whether you're doing a farmer's walk, whether you're doing a yoke. There's a lot of impact on the joints and on everything. So when you do your cardio work, doing some low impact type stuff for breathing is pretty important. So I'll do some sort of thing I may be working on. Here at Varsity House Gym, we have a lot of protocol with a lot of the cardio machines. We have a lot of like gym standards. So for instance, I may try to get a 50 cal Airdyne ride in under a minute. That's one of the gym standards. And I may do some things where I'm working that, trying to work that for a few weeks, or I'm doing intervals. I'm doing, 10 seconds on with a 20-second break. And then maybe after the 3 weeks of doing that, I come and I try to get the 50 calories under a minute. So, be creative with that. Create a little plan for yourself. But it's all about getting the heart rate up and getting the breathing up. All right, and then we're going to move on. Okay, that finishes up the 3 days of gym training. And we'll move on to day 4, event training. And my event training has always been Saturday. Most strongman guys you'll find is either Saturday or Sunday. But Saturday seems to be a pretty popular day for event training for strongman. And event training, okay, is I think is what gets lost between some of the top guys and some of the lower end guys. Okay, if you are event training, okay, this means that whatever competition you have, where you're 3 or 4 or 5 months out, the goal is to get better, okay, at those events for the upcoming competition. That is what is important. Okay, with that being said, if you're brand new to strongman, or even if you're not brand new to strongman, okay, and you do not have a competition, you're just getting started, okay, or you've been in the sport for 5-6 years and you don't have a competition, say for 8 months, right? Well, then you got to get better at the basics, okay? You got an overhead press. You got to work both the log and the axle and the dumbbell. You got to farmer's walk. You got to yoke walk. You got to do a carry variation, a sandbag or a keg, and you got to do stones, okay? If you can cover those bases and get better at those 5 individual things, then you'll always be improving. So if you don't have a competition coming up, these are the things you have to come in. Don't, I'm not coming in on a Saturday to train because I don't have a competition coming in. If you are competing in strongman and you make the decision, you make the commitment to become the best strongman that you can be, then that's got to be year in, year out, day in, day out, okay? And it's got to be, because you don't have a competition coming up for 8 months, doesn't mean on a Saturday you're not doing event training, okay? You need to try to get better at everything. Strongman throws so many different elements of strength at you that you just don't know what you have to do sometimes. You have to try to be all very well-rounded and be able to work on everything. The guys who usually have podium finishes are the guys who are very well-rounded. Guys who are one-trick ponies, maybe a great deadlifter, but not a great carrier. Okay, maybe a great overhead presser, but not great at stones. So you have to try to be consistent in every event. So very, very important, guys. If you don't have a competition coming up, you have to get in on Saturdays and work those 5 main events. Carrying, overhead pressing, stones, yoking, farmer's walking. Those are the 5 main things, okay, that you need to make sure you're working on your event training if you do not have a competition. You have a competition coming up, break down every event and try to get better at every event. Okay. Day 5, okay. Day 5 is an optional day. Usually for me, this is a Sunday. In the last few years, I've really included day 5 to be try to make it as mandatory as possible. There are some Sundays where, I'm pretty sore, pretty beat up and a little tired, but I try to make day 5 as mandatory as possible. And day 5 is all about blood flow and breathing work, okay? So all I'm trying to do here is just kind of break a sweat and get some blood flow to the muscles, push-ups, pull-ups, hammer strength machines, hammer strength row, hammer strength press, get some shoulder volume work in, all right? Maybe sit in a sauna for, a half hour, just to try to flush it out a little bit, and then some type of breathing work. I may, by me, luckily my high school has great stadium stairs. They have the old school, they don't have regular bleachers, they have actual real cement stairs. And I'll go there on Sunday sometimes and I'll do a whole series of running the laps and running stairs and stuff like that. So find something around you that works, maybe find some hills by your house, and maybe you do that Sunday you go out, you do 50 bodyweight squats, 100 push-ups, and you do 10 hill sprints. Just something to keep the blood flowing a little bit. I know sometimes when I don't do anything, I feel way worse. So very important. I think day 5 should be really mandatory in your program. So the main thing, okay, that we get a look at these programs is, at these days, is the common theme is movements, okay? And what's important is that if you're starting to get involved in Strongman, that I think a lot of issue and the problem is with some individuals is they still think about body parts, okay? So when I ask some new guys coming into the sport, or what's your training like? Oh, Monday I do legs, okay? Well, you can't, that mentality, I do legs on one day, I do chest on another, okay? You're worried about body parts. What you need to be worried about is body movements, okay? Strongman is about the movement and how to get stronger in those movements. When you do a Strongman competition, it involves every aspect of your body. So you have to be as fully prepared as possible. So once you break out of that mentality from body parts to body movements, then you're in the right direction. Worry about body movements, okay? Very important, guys. All right, I know I went a little backwards here from the last few episodes. I gave you guys a few episodes ago, maybe about a month ago, I gave you guys an inside look at some of my training. And that's the reason why I want to come here, because you know what, I gave you guys an inside look at some of my training, but I didn't really break it down on how I've been doing it for the last 9 years. So this is basically it. This is the template that I follow. So if you're brand new to the sport, or you've been in the sport for a long time and you kind of been feeling like I'm kind of hitting a little bit of a roadblock in my training, I don't really know what I should be doing or how to start, this is a good way to start. Have some fun with it. Go through an entire exercise index, pick a couple exercises, go through 2 to 3 week waves. That's how I usually do, like 2 to 3 week waves. I may stick with something for 2 to 3 weeks. I change it up and I just keep rolling through, and it keeps you feeling good. And also, as you get deeper into the sport, Saturday, is a very, very important day as you get deeper into the sport. Your event training is the number one thing, to be really focused on, of course. So, when you come into the gym that week, choose these exercises wisely. For an example, real quick, before you come in an overhead press variation, if you went, pretty hard on Saturday in overhead pressing, maybe here you come in and instead of doing another max effort overhead press 2 days later, maybe this is more about just doing some blood flow work, maybe seated Arnold presses or something like that. You kind of be smart about it and kind of feel your body, so kind of see what your body's saying and go with that. All right, so guys, hope you get a really good inside look at some of the training here. Hope you guys got a good plan. If you're just starting out in Strongman, some stuff that you can follow. Have some fun with it. I'm still on this plan. It's been about 9 years. I really haven't strayed away from it. So I think there's a lot to be said about this program. So good luck with that. Get started with that. If you have any questions on that, make sure you please contact me. I'll definitely get back to you. And let's move on to my heavy metal song of the week. Okay guys, it's time for my heavy metal song of the week. Now last week I wanted to start doing an instrumental series because I enjoy instrumentals so much, and we started with Cataclysm, The Last Effort, but I'm going to switch it up today because there's a band I started following called Anaka. They're based out of Brooklyn, New York, so it's pretty cool. They're right here back in our backyard here, and I started listening to their album, The Unwavering. And this album came out in 2015. And there's a lot of albums that came out in 2015. In my opinion, 2015 was a great year for some really good heavy metal albums. We had, well, right close to it was Slipknot, The .5, The Great Chapter. I believe that was 2014, but it was right going in 2015. Lamb of God, The Stern Moon Drons, Metal Allegiance, they came out with an unbelievable, terrific album. So a lot of really great albums came out in 2015. And this album, The Unwavering, from the band Anaka, in my personal opinion, is right up there with any of those bands. It is a fantastic album. I was blown away by their sound, the lyrics, all of it put together was just made it one complete, terrific album. And the song for the week we're going to do from that album is called The Ghost of Yesterday. I really could have went with any song. I enjoy every one of them on that album, but I'm going to go with this one, The Ghost of Yesterday, from the band Anaka, from the album The Unwavering. They're based out of Brooklyn. Guys, if you're not, if you don't know these guys yet and you haven't checked these guys out, you're really doing yourself a disservice. They are honestly, in my personal opinion, right now, one of the top, in my eyes, one of the top heavy metal bands around. And these guys really kick some butt, and I'm really happy that I found them, and I wish them the best of luck. And guys, keep it up, keep up the hard work, make sure you stay heavy, and go check those guys out. So the song, once again, the song is Ghost of Yesterday from the band Anaka, from the album The Unwavering. Terrific album, go check that out. I hope you guys enjoyed my breakdown of my Strongman template. I know I gave you guys a few weeks ago the inside look at my training. Today we took an approach at actually looking at the exercises that I choose and some exercises that I choose within those categories and have some fun with that. And make sure you check back next week, and until then, stay heavy.